Welcome to our podcast, Hiking in Heels, with life coach Teresa Coltrane and full-time mum and writer Jessica Heedy Gandolfi. Hiking through life can sometimes feel like we are literally hiking in our heels.
As women in today's modern world, the pressure to tick all the social boxes is at its peak. Being perfect, being strong, having it all together, the list goes on. Inspired by our own journeys and life struggles, we have come together, and we are on a mission to empower other women to overcome their fears and tap into their greatness.
With special guests and our own personal stories, our aim is to bring light and healing to inspire you to take your life to the next level. As Coco Chanel once said, keep your head, heels, and standards high.
We invite you to kick off your heels, relax, and enjoy the show.
When I was in middle school and high school, I was bullied for every different reason. I was bullied for being ugly and awkward, and then I was bullied for being too popular on YouTube, and then I was bullied for no reason. I had rumors made up about me. So I feel like I literally went through that so I could reach out to every type of kid.
Welcome back to episode 15. At the age of 25, Davina Leone has inspired so many people with her talents. Through her passion of singing, Davina found her voice, which fueled her not only to live, but to thrive. Davina has won 2 YouTube awards for her successful channel. She's opened for OneRepublic at Sundance. She's performed on E's Hello Ross, and has been featured as a top artist on TV1 in France.
Most recently, Davina was on season 12 of The Voice. She now uses her story and singing ability as a platform to reach kids across the country. With her personal story of overcoming bullying and following her dreams, Davina has the ability to captivate and inspire young audiences in a beautifully powerful way.
So relax, kick off your heels, and enjoy the show.
So I took a plane, and then these 2 guys picked me up in the middle of the night, and we drove for 2 hours straight in pitch black darkness. And I just had to trust these men with my life because it was nobody told me anything.
Oh my God.
But then I ended up giving a speech to 500 kids in this beautiful theater. It was amazing.
We should talk about that.
On a stage. Yeah, it was so beautiful. So funny.
So I watched a little bit of you on The Voice on YouTube, which was so cool. What was it like to be a part of something like that? Was that your first time doing a reality TV show with a competition?
No, it was actually, I had done American Idol before, and I made it to Hollywood, and then I got cut after Hollywood, and that was my 4th time auditioning for The Voice.
Oh my gosh.
After I made it on, yeah. So I had a lot of experience auditioning, but not so much experience in front of the camera, and as far as the process, it was crazy, very demanding and very competitive, but you meet so many people that are just the same as you, and you never thought. You're you feel misunderstood your whole life. You're I don't really know why I do music, but I do, and then you meet all these people that are the same as you. Oh, cool. So there's this beautiful family that's created, and also because you're going through so much chaos together. You're waking up at 5 a.m., you're doing fittings, you're doing this, you're doing interviews, and it's long days, and then the day comes and you have to deliver that song. Right. That 2 minutes is all you have to prove everything you have, and if your voice is messed up, that's it. Some people got sick during their audition days. It was
So how old were you when you did American Idol? Because you're only 25. So.
Yeah.
Put that in there.
Well, I started auditioning for these shows when I was 19. So I was going every year, and I did American Idol. I think I was 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
So still fairly recently.
Yeah. It was the farewell season before the new season came out.
Right. Okay.
So I was on that farewell season, but I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the competition shows really because I was I don't know how you can measure talent. It's so you can't. And nowadays, it's all about artistry. It's not even who can sing a Whitney Houston song or who can scream the loudest. It's about who has the whole package, who can write a great song and deliver a great song. So I was kind of iffy about the shows, but I wanted exposure and I wanted to have the experience. So I kind of just quieted that mind in the back of my head and was let's just go for it. So
because you write your own, every song you do is your own, so you do originals for the whole thing, for all the auditions as well, or do you have to do a cover for that?
They prefer covers,
they do.
And they give you a list of songs that you're allowed to sing too, so they can get the licensing for it.
Yeah.
So I know that for The Voice, it was a little tough because they choose all the songs for you.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of leeway, like they'll give you a list of 10 and you can choose from that, and then they'll narrow it to 5, and then they'll pick from the 5.
So there's no guarantee that it suits your voice, and your tone, or anything that you've ever, even you as an artist, it might not resonate with what you're trying to put out into the world, but you don't have a choice. So that must be quite challenging.
Yeah, that was the most challenging thing, was not being represented the way I wanted to be represented, and not having control, and not being able to say no because you sign all these contracts. You already spent a year of your life auditioning, so you're kind of just like, well, I'm on TV, I might as well just go for it. So
wow, they are very blasé about that, by the way. It's on TV, so you just got to go for it. I mean, I watched so when you were in the final, was it last year of The Voice, and you had the sing off against Brandon.
Yes.
Royal, is that right? And the two of you were amazing. And was it Gwen Stefani was your mentor at the time, and she called you fearless.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just because I think you are. I think that's a perfect. And how did that feel when Gwen Stefani calls you fearless, and you're up on the stage and you're 24 at the time, probably?
Yeah, I was 24. It honestly felt surreal because I have like this person who is like an icon telling me that I'm fearless, and I had so much fear going into it also. I was like terrified. My voice was shaking from the fear, but like then to have someone so iconic look at me and call me fearless, it was like, okay, maybe I am coming off a little better than I think. So yeah, it was incredible, honestly. Like her and Celine, like both of them mentoring me and telling me all these things about myself that I didn't even know is like, it was mind-blowing.
That's amazing.
So I suppose we should back up, really.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get where you are now? Like at 25, it's so young, but to be in that position on the stage and with those people mentoring you. But how did you get there? How did you get into the music?
So I was always surrounded by music from a very young age because my mom's dad was an opera singer, a super amazing opera singer who won like the conservatory first place when he was like 19, I think, in Paris.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then my dad on his side, they were all musicians also. My dad plays drums and piano. His dad plays saxophone, piano, organ, like everything. So all around the house, we were always blasting music 24/7. And my parents put us in piano lessons when me and my brother were 5 years old. So we were just like in music. I went to a music magnet school in elementary school. I played like steel drums, clarinet, violin, cello. So I was always just in music. But I didn't think I was going to make like a career out of it. I was always like, I want to be a veterinarian or something. And, trying to like fool myself with these things. Like, I'm going to do something legit. Don't worry, mom and dad. And then cut to, I'm like 7 years old and I'm spending 7 hours in my room singing. It felt like I was training for a marathon and I didn't know it. Literally. Like I would listen to like Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, and just like try to emulate their voices and play it over and over and over and be like, okay, that's what she did there, and just study it. Like at 7 years old. And then I finally told my mom, I was like, there's an audition for Annie at the Actors Playhouse, which was this really big theater in Coral Gables. And I was like, I want to audition. And she's like, you don't even sing. Because I was doing this all in secret. I was doing this completely in secret and nobody knew. And I was like, yeah, I can, don't worry. So I went to the audition. And I think I was like 9 at the time, and they told my mom, like, listen, she's too young to play Annie, but we really want her in the musical. My mom was like, what? Like, what is going on? So then I did the musical. It was like a legit musical with Broadway people for like 2 months, where I had to like miss school for things and like rehearsals and everything. It was amazing. And that's when I like fell in love with being on stage, and I started doing musical theater in school, outside of school. And then when I was about 15, that's when like the bullying kind of started, and music became my safe place. It was more like where I would go to regenerate and to meditate and to come out feeling a lot better. So I just stuck to it, and I started the YouTube channel basically out of desperation. It was like a moment of like, I'm at the end of my rope. I was suicidal. My parents were fighting. It was like our family was breaking apart, and I was like, maybe somebody can just hear me and like it, or I'll see if like this is a good thing. So I put out a video, and it was like, that was it. And then I started putting out more and more, and people were saying that I was like helping to heal them with my voice. And I was like, okay, this is my new mission.
That's amazing.
So without even knowing it, you were being drawn through that from such a young age.
Exactly. I had no idea. I just knew that I liked it, and it made me feel good. Yeah. So that's why I tell the kids now, do what makes you feel good, because it could end up carrying you, you know?
Yeah, it's so important because we always feel like we have to do what like we're told to do or be in the boxes, and we kind of talk about that with a lot of our guests. It's like, honoring your heart and feeling and what feels good for you is often going to lead you to the right place.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. And so you said, can we circle back to, this is kind of a hard part in your story or a sad part, but you said that you were going through a really hard time. You were getting bullied at school, you're feeling suicidal as teens go through that stuff, and then even your parents were fighting. So you turn to the music to kind of be your safe haven and your place of how you could heal yourself. And so what could you recommend? I mean, I don't know if we want to jump to this already, but like bullying is like a very, huge thing, and teens going through emotions and suicide and having that kind of, experience and pressure these days. What do you, when you go do these talks, and I don't even know if you've said that you do these talks yet, but I guess maybe can you tell us a little bit about how you're sharing your story to help impact and help other teens and kids that might be going through bullying or the emotional side effects that you get when you're a teenager?
Yes, I feel like not enough people treat teenagers like they're actual people. And what I heard a lot when I was younger was, you don't know what real pain is. You don't pay a mortgage. You don't do this. You don't do and of course teenagers don't. Like, you have a threshold of pain, and when you're a kid, that's your highest threshold, because you don't know what it's like to have a family and pay bills and do all this. Your highest threshold of pain is being told to kill yourself, or being told you're ugly every day, and that harassment and that constant, stuff. So you can't blame a child for feeling like their life is ending when that is their top pain threshold that they're reaching every single day. They must feel tired, they must feel drained. So for me, distraction was the best thing. I mean, that's really the key, is to distract yourself from ruminating and thinking these thoughts of like catastrophizing, like my life sucks, I don't have anybody, I'm alone, and just redirecting your focus to something that makes your heart grow, so that it can just feel good, even for a little bit, and even temporarily. It will end up making you feel better in the long run, because the more you do stuff that you love, the better your self-esteem gets, and the more regenerative it is for your soul. So I try to tell people to find something that makes them passionate, that's proactive, that they can do whenever they can, even if it's for a minute a day. I remember when I had like no time to sing, I would just go into the band room closet at lunch and like literally play guitar to like serenade myself and like put myself back in that meditative state, and then go out after lunch and I'd feel better. But it's, the key is distraction and refocusing, because it's really easy to fall into like a repetitive pattern of thinking of destructive thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I love that you say that, like, people don't know how to talk to kids, or they don't think they know things, but they do. They're so intuitive.
Yes.
And like what you just said can help kids, and it can help adults too. It's like we all need to practice like learning how to be experts of snapping ourselves out of that rumination, the negative repetitive thought process. And at a young age, these kids are doing it, and there's so many influences, right, of social media, or kids at school, or like there's a lot of pressure that like a lot of us didn't experience growing up. So it is interesting to see how much more pressure there is on kids these days. And
yes,
but I just love that, because that's it. Like, stay focused on what you love. Like, take time for yourself and do everything in your power you can to stay on the good side or the positive side.
Because you go and, so tell us about, so how did you get into this part of what you're doing right now as well? So you go into schools and you talk to kids that are struggling. Perhaps tell us a little bit about how you got into that and what it will mean.
So I started speaking literally the year after I got out of high school. I was like, I need to tell these kids, like, it's going to get better, because right after high school, my YouTube channel got me all these amazing opportunities. I was like touring the country. I was opening for really big bands, and I was like, okay, I need to tell them that, like, if you do what you love, it's gonna work out. So I remember, like, my agent at the time, I was like, can I just, like, talk to a school? He's like, yeah, I have this school in Maine, you'll go talk there. So I did, like, a few schools in the area. Cool. And then a few years go by, I was on The Voice, and one of my mom's friends was friends with this guy named Kevin Lau, who is a 7-foot basketball player with one arm. And he has a very inspirational story, and he's a speaker. He was starting a speaking company. Right. And he's like, I need more young speakers, because there's a lot of, older speakers. But we want young speakers that can reach out to kids and, like, let me see what you can do. So he tested me out at a school, and he saw me speak, and he's like, awesome. And then I signed with the company. So that's how I get my speeches now. I'm with Atlas Speakers, they're called.
Oh, cool.
And right now they have 3 speakers. It's me, Kevin, and then this guy, Torrance Hampton, who's like a really cool business guy who has his own company. So all 3 of us are very unique. Kevin is like sports and athletics and be yourself and all this. I'm music and, sensitive girl. And then Torrance is like business, find your genius, very like, cool. So it's a very awesome team, and I'm so grateful that they found me, because now they book all the speeches for me and they vouch for me. And
that's cool.
Yeah. It's really great. Yeah.
And you get to share that story with these kids, which I just love because they need that kind of mentoring, like to hear it from somebody who's just gone through it, you know. So that's so cool. I love that you get to do that.
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite thing to do, honestly.
Aww.
I want to do it like every single day.
And when you go, do you sing for them when you go, or is it okay? Oh,
yeah, I sing during the speech. I like incorporate music into it, so it's like a little one-woman show kind of.
Cool.
It's really,
That's great.
Oh my gosh!
But I love how you've just gone from, you know, from the bullying and putting yourself out there with your initial YouTube channel. And that must have been really scary, putting yourself out there, knowing what you'd been through. That must have been really making you feel really vulnerable to do that. But then having the responses that you got and people responding, oh my gosh, thank you so much, this is exactly what I needed, you've no idea how you, that must have been the reward for you.
Yes.
And giving you that kickstart to then want to just go even further into it.
Absolutely. It shifted my focus, you know. In high school, you think you have to be pretty, you have to be popular, you have to be this and that's how you become successful. But then this totally changed my perspective and thinking like maybe I can just like sing for my soul and that is enough to make someone else's day. So for me that was like a beautiful transformative moment where I was like, okay, none of this other stuff matters. I'm gonna just do what makes my soul happy, and it resonated with other people.
It's so powerful, and I just love that you learned that at such a young age. I'm like keep sharing that message with these younger kids because it's like it's hard to do, right? Because it's like our souls all have some sort of calling, but we're so afraid to trust it and afraid to be vulnerable. I mean, the fact that you were like, I'm just going to share my soul and I'm going to put it on a video and I'm going to put it on YouTube, and you just went for it, and that things have aligned since then. I think that's such a true testament for a lot of people. And I think that's interesting because some people, you know, I didn't really know about, I mean, I'm from Colorado, not that you don't YouTube in Colorado, but like I always just thought it was like, you know, oh, like you just watch YouTube for like funny videos. But when I came out here, I was like, oh, YouTube's a way for people to express their work and their talent and what they're doing. And I just think it's a really interesting thing for people to try. So it's like, if you're listening and you're someone kind of on your own journey, like finding your way, I think it's a great way to express yourself. And so your channel, I was looking at your bio, so you got 2 awards from YouTube. What can you tell us about that?
I know one of them was like #2 most subscribed musician of the week or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
It was back when they were doing those little awards. And I remember at one point I had like 3 awards on my page. So it shows it on your page every time you go on there.
That's so cool.
And it was mostly just like most subscribed or most watched or something like that, which was crazy because I was literally uploading videos from me in my room, and I would like go to school and be alone all day, and then I'd come home and like be somebody online. It was weird.
Oh, I love it.
But yeah, like little awards like that.
That's so cool. It's so inspiring. I'm just ruminating on this whole thing that you said, like of just honoring your soul and just being willing to be vulnerable enough to take whatever step that might be with wherever you are, and to think about being vulnerable and think about being brave for that little bit of time that might guide you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I love it.
What do you think has been, do you have, the kids when you go to speak to them, do they have time to interact with you and ask questions? Is there like a common theme that comes through that you've seen most of the kids are wanting to know the answers to?
Yeah, honestly, there's no common theme. I mean, everyone is really different. I've had some kids come up to me and just pour their lives out and talk about like how their parents are divorcing and they don't know what to do and they're suicidal and things like that. And they'll just straight up come up to you and tell you because, you know, you seem like their friend because I'm like, I guess young like them and everything. And of course I try to help as much as I can, but mostly they'll go into my Instagram DMs and share their stories there and talk about how they were bullied, how they're at the end of their rope, how, you know, and I don't realize how powerful it is until the kids tell me and they say, you know, like this reshifted my perspective completely, and like thank you for putting that pep in my step now and everything. And you really don't realize, I'm like, oh, I'm just here to like tell my story and hopefully you guys get something out of it, but for some people it really like changes the way they think, and that to me is the most rewarding thing ever, because if I had that when I was their age, I would have been so grateful and probably wouldn't have wasted so much time, you know, hating myself or ruminating on bad stuff.
But you wouldn't be where you are now.
Exactly.
Through that.
Exactly. So it's a combination of like loving your journey and not being mad at where you are any step, because it will always, you know, the greatness comes from all the challenges.
That's right.
But it's also a combination of like knowing how not to dwell in those places for too long, because it could be more damaging than good to your self-esteem and to your psyche even, because you could form all these brain patterns that start to go into negative places instead of positive places. And learned a lot about that when I was on antidepressants. The psychiatrist mapped it out for me, and he's like, this is what your brain does when you think negatively for a long period of time. It just goes to that negative pattern of thinking. So that's why I tell them, like, don't dwell in it, accept it, you know, understand why you're in it. Try to have that hindsight when you're in it. Know that this is gonna suck right now, but after, like, when I'm older, I'll understand. That's my only theme, is like, when I'm older, I'll understand.
I love that. When I'm older, I'll understand. I love that you said, like, learning to love your journey and accept where you're at, even if it's not where you want to be. There's such a true, like, statement for everyone who's going through a hardship, and I find it like a common theme with my clients and even with myself. And it's what I say, like, at one point I remember I used to hide from where I was at, in that, like, I would book everything. I would never want to face, like, and be alone with my thoughts, because I was, like, going through a divorce. All my friends were getting married and having kids, and I was starting over again, and I didn't want to accept it. So I just would be busy all the time, and I would just ignore it. And then at one point you're just forced to face where you're at. But as soon as I accepted where I was at, and like you said, have the hindsight of trying to understand it and know in time you'll get where you need to be, and there's something in all of this for you, you know, you can move forward. But I love that, like, acceptance of where you are at, and, like, learning to love where you're at and appreciate what's supposed to be right now, and know that you're not always going to be in that space. Like, you're going to move forward, things are going to change. Because I think people kind of get stuck in that, like, oh my God, I don't want to be here, and it's, like, terrifying, and you think you're always going to be there, and so then it becomes a much bigger thing.
And almost probably as well, I mean, I know you say, you know, the biggest advice you give these children, these kids, I should say kids, not children, but is, you know, to find something that you love and to do that. But what if they're in such a dark place, which sometimes with bullying and with those traumatic events, you're in such a dark place that you can't see anything other than where you're right at. And so how can you even begin to look at what lights you up, where you really want to be going? I mean, what do you, if you have a kid that's in that dark of a place, and they're like, well, I don't even know, what do you say to them?
I say, for me, the best things have come in times of complete desperation. I mean, you go into a survival mode. When you really don't know what else to do, you just reach out a little bit and you find something. Like, I remember I was eliminated off The Voice after 3 episodes. I was done. I went home. I got viciously sent home, like, against this guy who performed incredibly. My performance was like, meh. And that was my reality. And then I was stuck there. I had just devoted a year and a half of my life to this show. Nothing came from it. I was, like, sitting there going, I'm in the same spot I was a year ago. Just wasted all this time. Went to Israel. I was crying, or I think it was Israel. Yeah. I was crying every single day. I was desperate. I was, you know, getting those thoughts again of, like, I'm useless. I'm not worthy. And then because I was so desperate and had no other means of making music, I started just learning production on my own. And it was, like, that time of desperation that if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have pushed myself out of my comfort zone to find something else. So it's just about, like, shaking it up and creating opportunities for yourself. Even if it's, like, something as tiny as picking up a program and learning how to use it. You never know where it's going to take you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, it has to be something I'm super passionate about that's going to help me in the long run. It could literally be, I'm going to, like, pick up Photoshop and learn how to do that. And then you never know. You could master Photoshop and get paid hundreds of dollars to do it a year later. Like, it's just finding those little things that get you through the day that you can even learn every day how to do, train a skill, just to distract you, and to be more proactive and have a little bit of a goal. Because finding what you love in those states can be really hard, especially knowing what you want. I mean, some days I don't know what I want. Yeah. And you just have to go little by little. If you like something in the moment, do it now. That's it. And then you never know where it'll take you.
But you had to go to taking the time out. So for you, it went to Israel, but it was just sitting in that space, crying, and working through that. So taking that time, allowing yourself to feel those feelings. Yes. To then be able to at least have a little bit of glimmer of hope of something, whatever it is.
Yes, it's important to, like, mourn the state that you're in a little bit, you know?
Yeah, you have to mourn it.
You do, because it's not pretty, and you can't just fool yourself and get busy every day and busy yourself with little things, because the breakdown's gonna come, you know, regardless. So you have to let it come when it's supposed to come, and then let it pass. And cry as much as you need to, you know, get mad, get angry, and then it'll fade. Just like everything else, it'll become a little distant memory. And if you find something to do that's proactive, from that, you're going to thank it more than anything. You're going to be like, I'm so grateful I was in that spot because it shook me out of my comfort zone. You know?
Yeah. I like how you're saying kind of like that spot of desperation, just like reach out for something. I always feel like, you know, just when you think you can't, or just when you're like, I can't take it anymore, it's like it's almost pressing, like pushing you into your greatness. Like you're forced to like learn those survival skills, right? There's something that you have to kind of reach inside to like help you get through it. And like you said, it could be anything, but it might lead you to where you need to go, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's like it's not a time in those times to be like that choosy or picky, because I was always like, I don't want to do production, it seems so hard, like years down the road I'm like, I'm gonna need a mixing board in my own studio, and like so those thoughts were even stopping me and limiting me from just going up and picking up a program. But the second that I was like, okay, why don't we just try this out, whatever, like what will come from it? Probably nothing. I like created my own EP and released it, you know, like you never know where it'll take you. So that's why just eliminating those voices of like, what's the point, or where is this even going to take me, is so important in taking that first step, because that's all you have to do, you know.
And you probably have learned so much from learning. I mean, I can't believe that you mix your own music and make your own beats and your own sounds, and you set up your camera, and you play the guitar, and you sing. Like,
and like, those all came from not having anyone to do it for me. It's like literally, I had nobody wanting to work with me, nobody offering, nobody like, hey, I can film your videos. It was like, no, sink or swim, do it yourself. Wow. You know. But instead of going, oh God, like, poor me, I can't do anything, I'm all alone, I was like, all right, let's pick it up and learn it. Like, what else am I gonna do?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so cool, because it's right. You have a choice, right? You can either go down the victim self-loathing path, and sometimes we do for a little while, but then it's like, okay, this is kind of boring. I'd rather actually do something.
Absolutely.
And just start from somewhere. So that's so cool. I love like all the stuff that you've probably learned from that. Like, and now you're probably this expert like person. You can teach somebody how to like make their own.
I don't think I'm an expert, but yeah, I do. I get around pretty well. I have finessed my way around it pretty well. Like,
that's so cool, though. I don't know about many people that do that on their own for themselves, so that's cool. And you write your own music, too, so that's cool. Could you tell, I'm always curious about how artists go about writing their own music. Is there a way, do you have like a process?
My like learning about writing was kind of unique, because I was like, learned guitar, and then I started writing my own songs that were super mediocre, and then Richie Supa, who was Aerosmith's songwriter, he like found me on YouTube and took me under his wing, and he had me like lay out all of my songs and just taught me like what the best parts of the songs were. He taught me how to write a song from scratch, how to use imagery, because he was a country writer as well, and those songs are always very like descriptive and beautiful. So he taught me everything I knew about songwriting, and now I just apply it. His voice is in my head every time I write a song now. Like, well, is that really what you want to say? Like, is this? You have to make sure that the message is kind of clear, even if it's not. Make sure that the overall message of the song has a gist, you know, so people can follow it at least. And if not, if all else fails, make sure the melody is super catchy, because sometimes if the melody is catchy enough, nobody will care what they're singing about. So now when I write a song, it's tough. It goes a billion different ways. Some days I literally just channel it, and a song will just pour out of me in 10 minutes, like an entire song. That's my newest single that I want to release, called Don't You. I literally wrote it in 10 minutes. I produced it, and I was like, cool. Sent it to my brother, and I was like, what do you think about this? And he's like, this is the best song you've ever written.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Like, it just
You're like
poured
brushing your
out
teeth
of
one
me.
day, you're like, hold on a minute, let me get a pen.
Yes. And then sometimes I have to just force a song out, and I'm like, okay, what do I want to say in this verse? Like, what? Okay. But usually it's, I find something that I really love in like a melody or a sample, and I'll just play it on loop and write to it. I'll spit out some top lines, which is like melodies, and then if I really like a melody, I'll find the rhythm of that melody, and I'll write the lyrics to the rhythm of that melody, and then it just all flows from there. But some songs are more difficult to write than others. The best songs, though, are the ones that pour out of you. The one that people liked on the EP the most, Drown in You, was one that I wrote also in 10 minutes after I had a dream. And I just wrote it, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, what do you guys think? And they were like, this is my favorite song. And I'm like, and then the one that I spent like 2 days writing, they're like, that one's okay, that's fine. I mean,
isn't that funny? That's how it all happens.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Songwriting it's a very different process. I really respect people who can go in and write an amazing song every day, because some days I just can't. Some days it's just not flowing, and I'm like, I have to force it. And granted, I could probably write like an okay song, but for me, I'm very critical and I want to always write the best I know that I can write. So
do you notice a difference of when you get that like automatic download to when it's like all of a sudden forced? Like, is there something that you started to pick up in like your patterns of like how you're thinking or what you're doing?
Not even. It's so sporadic. I know that it's nighttime usually. It's always nighttime. It's always a state where I'm feeling inspired. Like, I have to feel inspired. I have to feel good. I can't feel doubtful. If I'm feeling doubtful in my life or in my circumstances, I'm just not going to write anything good. Because it's not flowing. I'm angry. I'm like, man, nothing's going well. So like, meh. But yeah, if I'm in a state of just like harmony, everything flows out. And when I'm, connected, really, it feels like I'm channeling, and it just pours out.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
So do you think, so you had to go from Aerosmith,
Richie Supa.
And then obviously having Celine as your mentor on The Voice, I mean, you must have learned
Oh my
a
God.
lot but different things from her.
Yes. More about stage presence and presence as an artist. She was a force of nature. Like, that woman, oh my God. You meet her and you're just blown away because her presence is incredible. She's just a light. She's spontaneous. She's free. She's just liberated, and you're just in awe of her. And she taught me a lot about how to get out of my own head because I was so reserved on stage. I was like, and I was like younger. I was like a little girl, and especially for that performance with Brandon, she was like, "You have to be sexy. Come on, be a nasty girl." And I was like, "Oh my God, Celine!" And then afterwards, she like spoke to me. She's like, "Don't lose your sweetness, okay? It's only for the stage. Please keep your sweetness. You're a sweet girl. We need it." And I was like, "Okay, thank you, Celine." She's like, "Just know when to turn it on." So it was more about presence, which I didn't really think much of because, as a songwriter and an artist, you're always like, the song will speak for itself. I don't have to do anything. But no, like as a performer, you kind of have to.
Like the vehicle of the
you gotta sell it a little bit,
Oh my gosh. Well, I can imagine like the pressure, the nerves of what it must feel like to like walk out on a stage and be, like you said, like having to sing and create this whole performance. And you were younger and...
It's different when you're doing it out of like, you're performing and it's your friends there and it's people that that want to see you sing. It's so much more fun because you're not trying to prove anything to anyone. You're just like, I'm here to have a good time. They're here to have a good time. Let's have a party. But for the competition shows, it's like, I got to prove myself. I need to know that my vocals are going to be on point. I need to know when to point that finger, when to do. So it's like a lot. It's so different.
Yeah.
So different.
Were you like nervous to perform in front of like Gwen Stefani and like?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that would be so intimidating.
Yes, Adam Levine. Like, I was singing Sunday morning in band practice in 7th grade every single day. Like, that was our song that we sang. Like, I loved Maroon 5, and I was just like, yeah.
You're like, there's the guy.
I know. I was like, he's so beautiful. I can't stand it. So just, like, it was, but you... Honestly, like, you surprise yourself in those moments because your body just goes into, girl, you better do it now. Like, don't even think about that. Don't look them in the eyes. You look out. You don't even, you pretend they're not even there. Like, you're just in survival mode, like, thriving. So, oh, totally. And that's the thing is, like, your voice is the one thing that's affected by everything. The environment, whether you drink enough water, whether you slept, whether you're nervous. So if you're nervous, like the shakes are so visible in your voice and then you can't go to where you want to go. So that was one thing also that I was super just didn't like about that was the fact that, you would rehearse for a month, but then you go out on stage, there's a live audience, there's all the coaches, there's the cameras on you, it's like your one shot. So your voice is like,
yeah, it's like no pressure.
It's like, please. No. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, you've had quite an amazing journey for where you are in your life. I'm so excited to watch all the fun things that you're going to continue to create and do. And it's like, you're very inspiring, and I love all your words today. It's so helpful, whether you're a teen or adult. Like, everyone can learn from your story and from your and I just love that you're this musical person, but you have such depth to like who you are and like what you're creating, and just like your passion to connect with people and share your light with them is like such a beautiful gift in itself. And you have a beautiful voice, so it's so exciting.
So you've got a lot coming up after the holidays. Have you got some more speaking coming up?
Yes.
Releasing your next single?
Yes, more speeches. Gonna release this next single. I'm working on a lot of new music. I'm trying to work on music for other people now. I've been having meetings with people to try to do production and writing. Hopefully get a deal somewhere and just see where it takes me. Yeah.
When you release your music, is it on iTunes or like Spotify? Like, how do people find you?
It's on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, Pandora. It's on every platform you can think of.
Great. We will search for you everywhere. So we always highlight a charity like that our guests love, or like they like to spend their time with. And you were telling us a little bit about yours. Do you want to share a little bit about the one that you most recently were talking about?
Yes, it's the ACLU, and it's a great organization that helps with human rights and women's rights, reproductive rights. It basically fights for what is right in the world, especially right now when there's a lot of, corrupt things going on in the government and politics. They really fight for justice with everything across the board, and I love them. I follow them on every platform. I donate to them because they are really making a huge difference in our times and with lawmaking, and they do great things.
Perfect. That sounds so cool. We definitely need all of that right now too.
Yes.
So very cool. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This has been so fun.
Unbelievable, such a bright light.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today. We're so grateful for your support. If you're loving our episodes, we would love it if you head over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube and leave us a review. Also, you can connect with us on Facebook in our Hiking in Heels Facebook group. You can follow us on Instagram. And also, if you want to learn more about our guests, you can visit our website, hikinginheels.com. It's HEALS. And also, you can check out our charities page as well to learn how you can support all the charities that we discuss on the show. So thanks again for listening.
I belong to you. You talk to me like we're something, but we're not. You make it so clear you don't know what you want. No, don't you try to tell me I'm your one and only when it's not true. No, it's not true.